I'd like to welcome all of you to our lesson today for Unit 3, Day 9. Before we move into that lesson, on Monday we didn't get a chance to finish the final 3 parts of research writing, and so I want to go over them here briefly. Again, if you're not in class, you're going to have to take time to study these resources a lot more closely than just listening to what I say. So for in-text citations, again, you do not want to unintentionally plagiarize your work. That means your in-text citations have to be done correctly. So depending on what kind of a source you are using, two things determine what you put in your parenthetical notations or in-text citations. Number one, the type of source that you have, and number two, how you refer to the information in the sentence where you use the information. So for example, if you have a one author source and you actually say the author's name in your sentence, then it seems really redundant to put it in parentheses again. So you can see that the example here shows for one author, Case 21. In other words, the last name of the author is Case, and it came from page 21. So I would keep it that way unless I had used Case's name earlier in the sentence. And if I did, then I would just put the page number in parenthetical notations. If you look down the list, you can see all sorts of other possibilities that you might have with your sources. Some of you might, of course, will have a source if you used a video without a page number. So what is it you do there? If you have 3 or more authors, what do you do there? If you have 2 sources by the same person, what do you do? The one that I want to go over, and I think I may have touched base with it in one of the classes yesterday, is the one where it says works quoted in another source. So if your author of one of your sources quotes somebody else, and then you come along and decide you would like to use that information from the person that they quoted, you have to do it differently. So I'm just going to highlight this one right here. If you borrow something from a source where it's in quotation marks in the article, now you're using it, you have to put whoever said the information in the sentence. And then when you get to the citation, you use an abbreviated form of quoted, QTD, notice it's lowercase, and put the author of the article's last name along with the page number. The same is true if you've done a study, like you're quoting a study that one of your authors used. So they're borrowing someone else's work, which they have paraphrased. Then if the author of your article didn't quote somebody, you can't use the word quoted. The author of your article said in their own words. So then when you get to the end, whoever said something in their original article, you put that person's name in the sentence the same way that I illustrated it with the quote. And then look at this highlight text. You'd use the abbreviation para for paraphrased, and that Smith would be the author of your article along with the page number. So anyway, any types of questions with in-text citations, you can look in your resource booklet. I have an MLA style guide on my desk. You can ask questions, so just make sure they are correctly done. Now, this is a nitpicky thing that drives teachers insane. So you don't want to lose points on where you put periods. So just always think the parentheses goes first, and then the period goes after. Parentheses first, period goes after. The only time, so that's going to happen 99% of the time in your research paper. The only time it won't is when you have a long quote. So on your long quote, notice here, there's the period there, and then the citations here. And the reason they do it that way is when you go to discuss it, what's going to happen is like you'll have to go to the next line to discuss it. So it separates the citation from whatever is coming next in the typed work. So like here, you could go on typing here. So you want the period to separate this stuff from what you're saying new here. The other time you put the period before the parenthetical notation is if you have a caption underneath a graph or a picture in your research paper. So that's only going to be one time in your paper. Every other time the period goes after the parentheses. Okay, section 7 in your research title means that you are writing a title that fits for research papers, and they're really boring. I don't have time to explain it all here, but look at the bullets and it will explain it to you, and I've given you some examples of good research style titles. Finally, for your research paper, somewhere you need to have a chart or an image. And why? Just so that you learn how to use them. So your chart should not take over the page, of course, and it shouldn't be really small. But you need to have a caption with your chart or your image, so you need to learn how to write them. We will learn that later, but this link right here talks about how to add images into research papers and how to do those captions. So take some notes on that. Finally, there is a really good Pressbook article that kind of summarizes a lot of things I've talked about the last 2 days. And if you'll open up this link right here, then it will take you to that article. I would like you to, for your homework assignment, you're going to pull out an essay that I wrote for sophomores a few years ago. It's overly heavy with quotes, and I purposely did that to show them because I wanted them to see what I did right and what I did wrong. So, but I want you to rip it out of your packet and with your pen or paper on every page of that research paper, off to the side, write some little comments, 5 per page, on things that I did in that research paper and why I did them. So it can connect anything to citations, it can be the style of the writing, just anything that you're noticing on every page. Some notes. So you will eventually staple that together, turn it in for points, and I will count up 5 citations per page. So anyway, so that is what we are doing. And then notice here that we are going to transition into writing your research paper. So I'm going to shift gears really fast, and for the second half of this, talk about today's lesson. Today on Wednesday and on Tuesday when I see you again, you are going to work on your research paper. So here you can just see some things that I wanted to cover that I will cover at the beginning of class. Did you make sure you turned in your annotated bibliography rubric with the titles on it so that I can grade your annotated bibliography? The second thing, did you make sure that I checked off 2 quotes, paraphrases, and summaries of your graphic organizer, and to give you credit for that? And did you turn in your graphic organizer into the tray? And then the third thing, I figured that the numbers 1 and 2 will take us about 20 minutes in class. The third thing is go to, I'm going to give you some time to pull out that do elephants have emotions, and then label 5 things, on each page. So that's what we're doing at the beginning of class on Wednesday. So then for today, we're just going to review in academic notes, problem solutions. You're going to write down some things that you might do. We're also going to talk about reverse outlines, and then look at another sample essay, and then give you time to write. So remember, I gave you 3 options for writing your essay. In your academic notes today, would you write down the strategies for whether you're using option 1, option 2, and option 3, and then off to the side, write about what you're probably going to be working on in that part of the essay. The other thing I want to point out is for a 6 to 8 page research paper, your introduction should be about 20%, which means the first page. The body then will be about 70% of the research paper, which is 5 or 6 pages. And then the conclusion is a half a page. If you do the solution, option 2, your conclusion should be a little bit longer. So I would say for that, something like that, if you want to talk about the solutions and where we go from here, I could see that solution in option 2 being a full page for the conclusion. So write down what you think you will be doing in each section of that paper as your academic notes. This one, just know that all of your sources together put together your puzzle for your problem solution paper. So if each of these puzzle pieces here is one of your sources, you're not writing a research paper on the red one or the orange one or the green one or the blue one. You're writing whatever the picture is of all of them put together. So think about that too. I like to use reverse outlines exercises occasionally, and we're going to do one in class, the beginning of class today, to give you an understanding of where you're going before you actually start writing. So what I'd like you to do is pull out another example of a research paper that a student wrote, and using Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth, you're going to be like a Swiss Army knife, a jack of all trades. It's kind of a jack of all trades exercise that just makes sense. So for each paragraph of somebody else's essay, write what they did. So you're writing the outline after the paper is written. And why? It's going to help you determine if they met the goal of their thesis. It's going to help you discover places that they could have expanded on evidence or analysis. And you're going to be able to see from someone else's work where readers might get tripped up. So if you can see this in someone else's final essay, then hopefully it's something that you would avoid when you start your draft. So again, here's your exercise. Pick a student essay from the packet and then do that exercise to see if they meet the guidelines of a problem solution essay, which option did they use. And finally, I want you to grade my essay for the sophomores, and then grade the essay that you pulled out for the reverse outline, and use the rubric for research papers to see what they would have earned. After you do that, read this slide because I'm running out of time. So remember, you're creating a smoothie. You're not creating a bowl of fruit with your papers. So you can mix all of the sources together throughout your essay to make it work. Finally, look over these strategies before you begin your essay. Look over these strategies for questions, and look over this strategy and begin writing your essay. Good luck.